I heard Greta Van Susteren commenting on the knockout game. The knockout game, if you've not heard, looks like this.
This game has to be condemned, and in order for the condemnation to have any impact whatsoever, it has to come from important role models to these young teens. I beg of Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, and even President Obama to step up right now and speak out. Your silence will speak volumes, but your voice could make a big difference. Don't wait. Be leaders. They need you. We need you.
It looks like it doesn't take much to play this game. I guess you just have to be bored and a complete coward. But Greta asked a very disturbing question. She asked, where is Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton? I'm sure she was being rhetorical, but how about we just keep them out of this? Because they're part of the problem. They will offer nothing helpful to this, like drinking Listerine to make your fart smell minty fresh. It's not helpful, and you'll get sick. And no, I haven't tried it.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
I noticed that these attackers didn't need a gun to assault anybody. And I'm sure they would have had reservations about attacking people if they knew another bystander would have had a gun to detain them for their actions. These attackers make sure the coast is clear by looking for cops. No cops equals no guns. No gun equals free shot. If they had to consider that everybody else is free to carry a gun, they may think twice about assaulting somebody. Boredom is a monster, ain't it? And I gotta ask, how are these kids bored? I mean, with all the money liberals suck out of us through taxes, which is never, ever, 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 ever enough with these liberals who claim they need more money for programs to enrich these kids' lives, yet these kids are still bored. Not only are these kids bored, they're bored to death. Not their death, but so bored that bringing death upon others is their remedy for boredom. But this ain't nothing new. And it appears that mainly black teens are participating in the knockout game. The black-on-black violence has been okay as long as it's been contained in their areas. But as this starts to spill out of their areas, it'll be seen as a problem when Democrats start to see a containment breach of their voter stock. More and more, the youth are being conditioned for this. They're owed excitement at the forced expense of others. I keep telling y'all, that's what liberalism is all about. The forced expense of others. The entitlement influence program into the culture leads to this, despite how caring and interested in the youth these liberal teachers and people of power and influence claim to be. And more, you can see it in the eyes of too many teens, that the goal in life isn't to contribute to society. The goal is to not be bored. They're not interested in what they can give to the world. They're only interested in what they can get. That's what they're being taught. They're owed, and that it's not fair that they don't have what others do. These liberal teachers show them that by using the children over and over again. We need more money. Instead of demonstrating to children how to be resourceful, making the best of what you got and earning what's better. Instead of demanding people make things better for you so you can get a higher grade on a test that was made easier to make it look like you aced it. And with the economy tanking and a dependency culture conditioned to be entitlement-minded, it doesn't look like the kids have been being taught very well through the years. With all the money that's being taken from us, and the more that's being taken from us, the more entitlement-minded these kids feel. So much so that they feel entitled to knock somebody out because they're owed a cheap thrill. A cheap thrill that came at the forced expense of someone else. That's what liberalism does. Liberal influence in this country is at the root of this. This isn't casting blame. I'm offering a solution. Stop the liberal influence. Liberals believe in evolution, so maybe they can relate to this. Liberals teach that abortion is okay. But abortion is only okay if you believe the child in the womb isn't human. Well, over years of influence and disregarding personhood, how did you think that was going to evolve? You think these attackers acknowledge the personhood of their victims? And I wonder why any liberal should be outraged by this. According to the logic of liberals, the knockout game should be totally okay and legal. One of the ways a liberal tries to justify abortion is by saying that the fetus doesn't know what happened to it. By that logic, it's totally okay to murder somebody as long as they don't know what hit them. Liberalism has conditioned people to disregard humanity. They try to play like they care so much about humanitarianism, but it's only a boastful exercise in self-righteousness. The knockout game is a game that has brought full circle the callous so-called justification of disregarding life in the womb. It's okay. It's not human. And furthermore, it won't know what hit it. With that conditioning, you can look at people and not see them as human. Point one of them out, knock them out, and not care. Because it was just a thing that didn't know what hit it. And none of these Obama-supporting so-called spiritual leaders are going to be of any use in helping with this. Any of these that support a pro-abortion president is a disgrace to the church. That includes T.D. Jakes, who claims he's pro-life, while he supports Obama, who stands in opposition to the Ten Commandments. T.D. Jakes panders to people with extremely irresponsible language concerning his so-called pro-life stance. He admonishes pro-lifers, saying, go ahead and preach against abortion, but when you get through preaching against abortion, give us some milk up in here so that we can feed those babies you told us we ought to have. Excuse me, but none of us conservatives that you're implicating ever told any of these people to go out and get knocked up out of wedlock. We never told anybody that they just ought to have children. You're slandering us, Mr. Jakes, which is a violation of one of God's top 10 no-nos. As a conservative, I'm looking at the Bible telling us to be fruitful and multiply. That doesn't mean just go out and have a bunch of kids. It means be fruitful, meaning work, produce, have a means to generate income, and then multiply. As a conservative, I don't just say, hey, you just ought to have a bunch of kids. If anything, I say you ought to be fruitful before having kids, as the Bible tells us to be fruitful and subsequently multiply. Some people don't care about that and end up getting pregnant, but we didn't tell them they ought to do that. But since they did, what we do tell them is they ought to own up to it and raise the kid and not make the child pay the death penalty for their actions. Mr. Jakes, what you ought to do is take that reprimand and put it on those people who chose to engage in an act that would lead to a pregnancy, and tell that baby daddy that he ought to be the one who needs to get some milk for his kids instead of pointing the finger at us. People like T.D. Jakes is part of the problem because he promotes the idea that people are entitled to have someone else take responsibility for their choices. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zonation, and I reckon the liberal progressive remedy that the Democrats will impose on us to fix this will be a boredom tax. And no, I haven't tried it.